Hey everybody, Bob Olson here with Afterlife TV. You can find us at afterlifetv.com. This is where we talk about life after death and answer many of the questions you have around that subject. Today's episode is sponsored by bestpsychicdirectory.com, where there's hundreds of psychics and mediums listed there where you can read reviews written by the public who have had readings with them. Go to bestpsychicdirectory.com to check them out. Today's a bite-sized episode, everybody. It's a short episode, and I want to thank you for listening to last week's episode. It was a little longer, sort of in between the bite-sized and the long 1-hour episodes, and so many of you left amazing comments on all the various places where you can leave comments. Here's one of my favorites. It's kind of funny. Marjorie says, "Wow, at first I thought you were being a very kind and considerate uncle who wants to beef up the compliments on his 13-year-old nephew. I had no idea he'd actually live up to the hype. First off, he's darling. Okay, you might not want to share that with him, but at 55, I get to call them as I see them. He did a fantastic job, and I would be proud of him too. He's definitely got a future in broadcasting. He'll be great wherever he goes. Thanks so much, Bob, for sharing this talented young man with all of us. I can't wait to get the book. Thanks again for all your great work." Thank you, Marjorie. I appreciate your comment. I thank everybody for the comments. I also thank everybody for buying the Magic Mala. I also want to thank those people who loved it enough to leave a review on Amazon. One of the things that I like about people leaving reviews on Amazon is that there's a lot of people who are considering buying it. They're just not sure yet. When you leave a review on Amazon, that helps them decide whether or not it's right for them. And so far, I'm just really grateful for all of those who have left a review. Melissa and I read them and enjoy them because it gives both of us great fulfillment to know that people are enjoying the Magic Mala so much. All right, so today's episode is a story from one of our viewers, one of our listeners, whose name is Kathy. Kathy is a great supporter of Afterlife TV and the work that I do. You'll see her leaving comments on Facebook and Twitter, and I think the story speaks for itself, so here we go. Here's Kathy.
Hi, Bob. It's Kathy. I feel guided to share this experience with you. Between 1997 and 1999, I worked at the Arby's fast food restaurant in Moncton, New Brunswick. I don't remember which day, month, or year this occurred on, but it was my first experience of someone appearing to me translucently, in full body form, and I've never had an experience like this since. It was close to closing time, which is 11 p.m., and a couple of customers approached the counter while I was working cash and asked for a couple of turnovers. At that exact same time, an elderly translucent woman appeared in the walkway, which is between the counter where the cash registers are kept and the main dining room. It was a place where customers would never be, and where staff wouldn't stand either, as it was just a place to pass through. The first thing that she said to me, which I heard in my inner ear, and I'm not sure if her lips moved or not, was, "Tell Arlene I'm all right." The only Arlene that I know is my mother's longtime best friend that I've known since I was a young child. Telepathically, I asked this woman, who I'd never met or seen before, if that was the Arlene that she was talking about, and she confirmed that it was. The whole time during this conversation, I was getting my customers' turnovers very slowly, so that I could have my back to them and not appear crazy, just in case they saw my lips moving and didn't know who I was talking to. When I turned around, I was surprised to see that the woman was still there, in full translucent body form. And again, she reiterated her loving and peaceful message to me, "Tell Arlene I'm all right," before later on disappearing into thin air. When I got home around 11:30 that evening, I was shocked that my parents were still up, as they usually went to bed around 9 o'clock. I figured that they must have got some news, so even though they're not open to this kind of thing, I decided to risk it and asked them if they'd received a call from Arlene. They said that they hadn't and asked me why I'd asked. I told them of my experience the evening. What was shocking was that the following morning, when the phone rang at 8:30 a.m., Arlene was calling my parents to let them know that her mother had passed away the night before. Even though I was confident in the experience that I had, I was shocked by it at the same time. I'd never experienced anything like this before. Arlene's mother's funeral was held a few days later, and I knew that I needed to go to get confirmation. I had to figure out if the woman that I saw at Arby's was the same woman that had passed away. I was quite upset when I arrived and realized that it was a closed casket service. I couldn't figure out how I could get confirmation now. A small part of me was tempted to open the casket and take a peek, but I didn't want to be disrespectful, and I knew that I couldn't get away with it, and I really contemplated and tried to figure out if I could get away with it or not. I didn't know how else that I'd be able to figure this out. During the service, though, out of the blue, Arlene's grandsons held up a program which had a picture of their great-grandmother's face on it. I was very grateful for this confirmation. During the reception afterwards, I was standing with Arlene and a group of about 5 other people that I didn't know. All of a sudden, their conversation stopped, and all eyes turned to me. I felt compelled to pass the message along, and I knew that the time was right. The silence just lasted too long not to. But I was intimidated, and I didn't want Arlene to lose respect for me, to think that I was crazy, or any number of things. So I kept silent. For a few years after that, I felt guilty about not passing along the message when I had the chance. However, I'm sure that in the meantime, she's received confirmation that her mother's at peace and that her mother loves her very much. I hope you're having a great day, Bob. Thanks for letting me share this experience that I have.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much for sharing what sounded like an emotional story. Melissa's here with me.
Yeah, very cool. Very
welcome.
cool story.
And there's a lot to be said about that story. First of all, I don't know if I'm just not hearing it right, but it sounded like maybe towards the end of that, you were a little teary-eyed about the regret you might be feeling about keeping silent with Arlene. Let me just say this, based on what I've experienced and learned in the past 18 years, there's always more opportunities. So if Arlene's mother wanted to get that message across, you were just one of many possible opportunities for her to do that.
Right. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And so you had an opportunity to do it. You didn't do it. What I think is great, and I think if you flip this on its side so you see the glass is half full, maybe Arlene's mother knew this, right? Because they can see a certain amount into the future. Maybe she recognized how this was going to change you and the effect that it was going to have on you. And now you've done it differently. And as you said, now you don't hesitate to pass along the messages if they're respectful.
I just want to say, Kathy, that what came to me when I was listening to your story was I was feeling very happy for you that your parents got to witness you and see you in a way that you weren't there trying to tell them and convince them that you had this experience. This was you just asking, have you either of you heard from Arlene? And then they say why, and then you get to tell the story why, and then they get the validation the next day that you were actually right. So I think it's important, and I'm sure you thought of this, that your parents had the experience to see you for who you really are. And to me, that has got to be a really powerful and meaningful thing for you. And I hope you did recognize that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And I do think that, as far as Arlene's concerned, I think that there are things that can happen. I mean, your mom is her best friend. So your mom witnessed the story that you told her. And so who's to say that not down the road, someday they're having a cup of tea together and she brings it up and she's curious about it. So the message may get through even from you, but not directly from you.
Basically planting seeds. And that's all we can do. The last thing I would ever do, I think most of the audience knows this. The last thing I would ever want to do is try to force my beliefs on somebody else. And if they're interested, then come listen, read my stuff, whatever. If you're not interested, I don't take offense. That's fine. Everybody has different beliefs. And so that seems to be the way you did it with them. Here, this is what I experienced, an experience I had, and
I
take it for what it is,
I respect the choice that you made not to tell her, because this is her mother that passed, and it's the funeral services. And, I think it was your intuition really guiding you. Like, you don't have to say it now. It happened. You shared it with somebody, and the message will get to her when she's ready to hear it. And I think that, it could have been very disruptive for her, for you to say something at that given time. I think it's, trust your own judgment with that.
In our experience, certainly in mine, if any medium, especially new mediums that come to us, I would suggest that was an inappropriate time to present that information. People are going through deep grief right after the passing of a parent, and no matter what age you are.
Right.
And we have no idea a lot of times what someone's beliefs are, but even if we do know, sometimes it's just the wrong time to do it.
That's right.
And I think you kind of followed your intuition there. And I respect that you held back, where even now, today, it bothers you, or maybe, at least that was the interpretation I made. I actually hope at least you can work on that, and you won't feel that way anymore, because I actually think you did the right thing. So a couple other things. How cool that you went to the funeral to be able to confirm what you saw. Now, you obviously sound like a gifted person, and I know that you've had some cool experiences in your life, and I know that we'll probably share more of them here on Afterlife TV. But for you to be able to see this person, this translucent person from spirit, and communicate, I imagine you're communicating telepathically. You're just asking the question in your head, and you're getting the answer. Well, I've never had an experience like that. So, kudos to you. I mean, it's really amazing that there are people in this world that are able to do that. Yet, even though you have that amazing experience, right? You still wanted to go to the funeral to confirm it for yourself.
Right.
And luckily, the photographer was on the program to help you with that. So a lot of interesting things about that story in many different levels. I'm glad you shared it with us so much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, so that's another bite-sized Afterlife TV episode. You can find us at afterlifetv.com. Our sponsor is bestpsychicdirectory.com. And I hope you will comment on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, afterlifetv.com.
iTunes.
That's right. iTunes podcasts. Anywhere else you can really find us. You can send us an email if you want. We do read through each and every one of them. So thank you so much, and have a great week.